What if I told you that sometimes the most dangerous lies aren't screamed in arguments or hidden behind locked phones, but instead sit quietly on skin etched in ink, disguised as art, waiting for someone to notice? That's how I found out the truth about my wife, and it started with a tattoo she swore was just a little design. She laughed it off when I asked. She brushed my questions aside like I was paranoid, like I was overthinking something so tiny. But I'm not the kind of man who lets things go. Maybe it's because I've always trusted patterns, codes, the subtle things most people don't see. I'm an engineer. I build things, solve problems, notice details, and when I looked closer at those small black dots and lines on her skin, what I saw didn't feel like art. It felt like a message. At first I tried to dismiss it. She'd gotten it on her inner wrist, a place you can't help but see when you're holding hands, pouring coffee, typing at a desk. She claimed it was abstract, minimalist, something she'd seen on Pinterest. I wanted to believe her. God knows I wanted to believe her. But late one night while she slept beside me, I found myself on the couch with my laptop staring at an image of her tattoo on my phone, my brain whirring, dots and dashes. My heart actually skipped when it hit me. It looked like Morse code. I hadn't touched Morse code since a summer camp exercise as a teenager, but the memory came back instantly. I pulled up a chart. My eyes traced her tattoo. Dot, dash, dash, dot, and my blood ran cold. It spelled out a name, not mine. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself maybe it was coincidence, maybe I read it wrong, but the name kept staring back at me, undeniable. 4 letters. His name, the man I'd always suspected but never proved. My boss, the same man who shook my hand with that smug grin, the same man who had promoted me, but always with a hint of condescension, as if he owned me. Now I saw it. He owned her too, or at least he thought he did. The next morning, I couldn't even look at her the same way. She was sipping her coffee, scrolling on her phone, her wrist casually showing that tattoo. I wanted to grab her arm, shove the truth in her face, demand why she thought I was stupid, but I didn't, not yet. Because anger burns fast, but strategy, it lasts. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that people like her only respect moves, not words. So I played along. I kissed her forehead before work, told her I'd be late at the office, and inside I was already piecing together a plan. You have to understand something about me. I don't go nuclear right away. I test, I confirm, I gather evidence. I needed to know for sure if I was right, because once I moved, there'd be no going back. So that week I started watching closer. She was suddenly working out more, staying late at yoga, her phone flipping face down every time it buzzed. I hacked nothing, installed no spyware. I didn't need to. People reveal themselves without realizing. She wore that tattoo like a signature she thought I'd never be able to read. But I could read it, and once I cracked one code, I started seeing others. The way her excuses lined up perfectly with his late nights. The times she showered, right after drinks with friends. The softness in her tone when she said his name. Most men ignore that. I didn't. The thing is, she underestimated me. She thought I'd see dots and lines, nothing more. She thought I'd smile at her story about an innocent design, and move on. That was her mistake. Because once I realized what it meant, I couldn't unsee it. And the more I saw, the more the rage inside me turned into something colder, sharper. I didn't want a shouting match. I didn't want to be the fool begging for the truth. I wanted her and him to feel the ground shift under them, to understand that I wasn't just some clueless husband. I wanted the last laugh. So here's where it gets interesting. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started laying foundations. I volunteered for extra projects at work, which gave me an excuse to stay later. That gave me access, emails, schedules, subtle tells in the office. And guess what? It all matched. The random weekends away with her girlfriends, lined up with his supposed business conferences. The puzzle pieces clicked together so neatly, it almost felt insulting, like they hadn't even tried to hide it. Because in their minds they didn't need to. I was supposed to be the blind, trusting husband, but I'm not that man. Not anymore. And then, as if fate wanted to twist the knife, I caught them slipping. Not physically, at least not yet, but digitally. A text flashed on her phone when she left it charging in the kitchen. She was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, it lit up in plain view, his name, not saved as anything suspicious, just his first name, like a friend. But the preview of the message was enough. Thinking about your wrist again. That was all it said. 6 words that confirmed everything I feared and everything I already knew. He wasn't just in her life. He was branded onto her skin. That's when I knew I had them. And once I know I have someone, I don't let go. I started recording details, timelines, screenshots, even snapped a photo of the tattoo myself. My plan wasn't to explode, it was to let them bury themselves. People like that always do. They think they're careful, but desire makes them sloppy. And the best revenge isn't catching someone once. It's making sure they realize every move they made was visible the whole time. It's letting them know they were never smarter than you. They were just louder, bolder, dumber. The irony, the more evidence I collected, the calmer I felt. It was almost thrilling, like I'd stepped into a new role, not the betrayed husband but the hunter. And every night while she slept beside me, wrist draped casually over my chest, I'd stare at that tattoo and remind myself, this isn't the end of me, it's the beginning of something else, something she'll never see coming. And that's where part one of this story leaves us, with me sitting on a mountain of proof, a cold plan forming in my mind, and a wife who still thought her little dots and dashes were nothing more than art. She had no idea that I'd already decoded her, that every innocent smile was now evidence, every excuse another nail in the coffin. She thought she was playing me, but in reality, I was setting the stage. You know how people say revenge is best served cold? They never tell you how much patience it takes to keep the plate chilled. Every morning I woke up beside her, kissed her cheek like nothing was wrong, and went about my day. She thought she was winning, thought her lies were airtight, thought I was blind. That made it almost fun for me, like watching a magician pull tricks you already know the secret to. Because every late yoga class, every girls' night, every sudden excuse, I was documenting. I was building a record so ironclad, so undeniable, that when the time came there'd be no room for denial. I started small. At work I paid closer attention to my boss, let's call him Daniel. Watching him I noticed the little smirks, the way he checked his phone under the table during meetings, the slight twitch of his jaw when someone mentioned his work-life balance. He wasn't careful. Men like him never are. They think their money and status are shields. But status can't hide a man who's already written his name on another man's wife's skin. One night after she'd fallen asleep, I opened my laptop and pulled up a calendar. I matched her weekend trips with his conferences, a perfect overlap, like synchronized dancers who thought no one was watching. My pulse raced, not from anger anymore, but from control. I had the blueprint of their affair, and like any engineer, once you have the blueprint, you know exactly where to strike. But I didn't strike right away. No, I wanted him to feel it. I wanted her to feel it. So I crafted something subtle. I took a photo of her wrist, close up, the dots and dashes clear as day. Then using a simple Morse code translator online, I printed the name it spelled, his name. I slipped it into an envelope, with nothing else, no return address, and dropped it into the outgoing mail at work. His assistant picked it up with the rest of his documents. I'll never forget the look on his face 2 days later during a board meeting. He shuffled his papers, froze for half a second too long, then tucked something deep into his folder, his jaw tight. He scanned the room like a paranoid man, but his eyes didn't stop on me. Why would they? I was the loyal employee, the guy he thought was in the dark. That was my first win, planting fear without lifting a finger. At home she was still playing her role. She'd smile, kiss me goodbye, tell me she loved me. But cracks were forming. She was jumpy, checking her phone more often, deleting messages immediately, spending longer in the shower like she could scrub the guilt off. One night, when she thought I was asleep, I watched her trace her tattoo with her finger, staring at it like it was sacred. That made me angrier than anything else. Not the sex, not the lies, but the fact she carried his name on her skin and worshipped it when she thought no one was looking. So I started tightening the noose. I left small breadcrumbs, little hints that someone knew. She'd come home to find her phone left on the counter where she swore she'd put it in her purse. She'd get into her car and notice the seat moved slightly, like someone had been in it. I wasn't breaking anything, wasn't doing anything drastic, just nudging her sense of safety. Watching her unravel was its own kind of revenge. Then came the dinner. We were out with friends, laughing, drinking, pretending to be the perfect couple. She reached for her glass of wine, her tattoo exposed under the restaurant lights. One of my friends, a military guy, squinted and said, "Hey, is that Morse code? What does it say?" The color drained from her face so fast I almost burst out laughing. She stammered something about it being just a design, but I saw the panic in her eyes. Everyone else shrugged it off, but I caught her staring at me across the table, her smile stretched too thin. Did I know? Was I suspicious? She couldn't tell. That uncertainty was the sweetest appetizer of the night. Back at work, Daniel was slipping too. He barked at staff for no reason, snapped when someone mentioned his trips, avoided eye contact with me entirely. I knew he was unraveling. That one envelope had lodged itself deep in his head, and paranoia is like a slow poison. He probably thought someone else had figured it out. That was fine by me. Let him rot from the inside out. But the real turning point came one evening when she left her laptop open. She was in the shower again. I wasn't even looking for it, but there it was, a draft email unsent, sitting wide open on the screen. To him, "I don't know how much longer I can keep this hidden. He's been asking questions. What if he figures out what the tattoo means?" My hands shook, but not from pain, from victory. She was already afraid, they both were, and fear was my weapon now. I printed that email, didn't alter it, didn't touch a word, just printed it and slid it into another envelope, this time leaving it under her pillow. She found it that night. I pretended to be asleep, but I felt her body stiffen beside me, heard her shaky breathing. She didn't confront me. Not then. She couldn't, because confronting me meant admitting the truth, and she wasn't ready for that. Not yet. That's the part people don't tell you. Betrayal isn't one big explosion. It's a series of tiny detonations, each one making the ground under their feet less steady, and I was laying explosives everywhere, quietly, carefully, without saying a single word. By the end of that week, she was a shadow of herself. She'd jump when I walked into a room, fumble excuses that didn't make sense, keep her wrist covered with long sleeves even in the heat. She wasn't protecting the tattoo anymore. She was hiding it, hiding from me, from herself, and me. I was calm, cold, because I knew part 3 was coming. The reveal, the moment I'd pull every string at once and watch the whole house of cards collapse. Not with yelling, not with fists, but with precision, with evidence, with strategy. The tattoo was supposed to be their secret. Instead, it became my weapon. The night I chose to end it, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. That was the beauty of it. She thought it was just another Friday night, another evening where she could say she was meeting the girls and come home late smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. But I'd already set the stage. The kind of stage where one wrong step would send everything crashing down on her and on him. I invited a few close friends over for drinks, mutual friends, the kind who had known us both for years. I told her ahead of time, casually, and she said she'd try to swing by after her plans. That was fine by me. In fact, it was perfect. Before they arrived, I set the dining table. Nothing extravagant, just bottles of wine, some appetizers, and right in the center a small stack of papers inside a plain manila folder. Evidence. Every printout I had collected over weeks, the Morse code translation of her tattoo, screenshots of messages, the draft email she'd written to him, photographs of their overlapping trips, all neatly organized, methodical, impossible to argue with. I didn't plan to scream, I didn't plan to accuse, I planned to show. By the time she walked in, laughter already filled the room. My friends were sipping drinks, telling stories. She froze in the doorway, surprised. "Oh, I didn't know we were having company tonight," she said, her voice too high, her wrist tugged behind her sleeve like she could hide it from the world. I just smiled and poured her a glass of wine. "Come sit," I said. We were just about to play a little game. The table quieted as I slid the manila folder forward. My heart pounded, but not from nerves, from anticipation. This was the moment I'd been building toward. I opened it slowly, deliberately, and pulled out the photo of her tattoo. I placed it on the table where everyone could see. "Anyone recognize what this is?" I asked, feigning curiosity. One of my friends leaned in. "Looks like Morse code," he said, exactly as I'd hoped. "What does it say?" I didn't answer. I just pulled out the translation sheet, laid it beside the photo, and let the letters spell themselves out. His name, clear as day. Silence fell over the table, broken only by the soft clink of her glass trembling against the wood. Her face drained of color, her lips parted, but no sound came out. "I thought it was art," I said calmly, turning to her. "That's what you told me. But turns out, it's not just art. It's him." Her eyes darted around the table, searching for an escape, for some ally who might save her, but no one spoke. No one could. I slid the next piece of evidence forward, the printed email she'd left open, her words in black and white. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this hidden." Gasps rose from the table. One friend muttered, "Jesus Christ." She reached for the paper, but I pulled it back before her fingers could touch it. "No," I said softly, "this isn't just mine. Everyone gets to see." And then I pulled out the final card, the text message screenshot from him. "Thinking about your wrist again." I placed it on top, the ink glaring under the overhead light. She buried her face in her hands, her composure crumbled. It's not what it looks like," but the words were hollow. Everyone knew it. Even she knew it. That's when my phone buzzed. Right on cue, I picked it up and turned it around so everyone could see the name on the screen. Daniel, my boss, calling me. I let it ring twice before answering on speaker. "Hello?" I said evenly. There was silence. Then his voice, low and tense. "We need to talk, privately." I smiled. "Oh, don't worry. We're already talking. Everyone's here. Everyone knows." The silence that followed was delicious, heavy. A silence that said his world had just cracked open. He hung up without another word. I looked at her then, my wife, the woman who thought she could brand another man's name on her skin and I'd never notice. She was crying now, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her sleeve tugged over her wrist like she could erase the evidence. But I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I didn't throw anything. I simply leaned back in my chair, folded my arms and said, "You underestimated me. Both of you did. You thought I wouldn't see it, wouldn't understand it. But I saw everything. I understood everything. And now, so does everyone else." The room was silent except for her sobs. My friends shifted uncomfortably, but they didn't leave. They stayed. Witnesses. Exactly what I wanted. I stood, collected the papers, and slipped them back into the folder. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," I said, my voice steady. "The house, the accounts, everything. We'll sort it out properly. But as of right now, this marriage is done. Her hand shot out trembling, reaching for me. Please, wait, let's just talk. I pulled away. You already said everything you needed to. You wrote it on your skin. And with that, I left. I walked out of my own house, folder under my arm, head high. I didn't slam the door. I didn't give her the satisfaction of drama. I gave her silence, the kind that roars louder than any scream. The fallout came quickly. Daniel avoided me at work, then resigned within a month when whispers spread about why his conferences always matched my wife's girls' trips. She tried to call, to beg, to apologize. I ignored every attempt. Because once you've been branded by betrayal, you don't go back. And here's the part that still makes me smile. She'll carry that tattoo forever. Every time she looks at her wrist, she'll see his name, the man who vanished as soon as the heat turned up. She thought it was a symbol of love. In reality, it became her scarlet letter. Her reminder that I was the one who read the code, the one who decoded the lie, the one who left her exposed. Some men explode when they're betrayed. I didn't. I let the evidence speak, let the truth hang her higher than my anger ever could. And in the end, I didn't just walk away with my dignity intact. I walked away having turned their little secret into their downfall. Tell me, if you found out your partner had tattooed another person's name in a secret code, would you confront them right away? Or would you wait, like I did, to let the truth burn them from the inside out?